Maria, I just emailed you back. Your journal's due tomorrow. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for letting me know.
Sure. Hi, Sandy. Sandy, can you hear me okay? It's Vicky.
Yes, I can. I was muted.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mhm.
How are you? I have a little glass, but that's okay. I'm afraid of spelling this again. Oh. How was your day, Sandy?
Good. I was
Okay.
just watching our high school's graduating tonight, so I was watching out for some friends through their streaming.
Uh-huh.
So it was really nice.
Oh, good, good. I think we have some time. Yeah. I was afraid for the internet. This afternoon, my internet kept messing up. I don't know if it's because of the storms or what. Hi, Ashley. I've made you co-host in case you want to jump in at any point tonight. Ashley, I don't know if you heard me. I made you co-host in case at any time you want to jump in tonight.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
so much.
sure.
Vicki, I made like a virtual thank you sign. That was another reason why I was trying to get access to your D2L to get all the names of your students so I can add their name to our little virtual thank you sign.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a couple minutes. We can take a look now
Oh, okay,
as
great.
to why, I don't know why I couldn't enroll you.
Yeah, it's so
Um,
weird.
Let me just see
Go under mine too.
1 second here. The internet's really acting up today. I'm hoping it's not storming at all tonight. It looks a little sunny where I am, but
Oh, okay, that's good.
okay.
Yeah, we've had storms all day.
So, can you see my screen?
I can, yeah.
Okay, so if I go to enrollment, right, I should be able to enroll you, but this is what I get. Select one or more items to use. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, okay, wait, can you go to add participant up top, or is that what you selected?
Oh, okay.
Because
I'm like
I think
completely
I'm
brain
they
dead.
changed settings, Vicki. It's not just you. They changed settings.
Okay,
Even one of my students emailed me asking like why she couldn't access the discussion board like she could a few weeks ago. And we went in and had to play with settings.
okay.
So it's not you. I think they even did an update like last Saturday or something.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you
Perfect. And then I'll go
Okay,
into
so you
see.
should be fine.
Awesome.
And then if you go to Course Home and you go to two places, the assignments, you should see a sample,
Okay.
I think, if I remember correctly, where we placed it. Under Survey Research Assignment.
Okay, I
You
see our
should-
family systems course now. Okay,
Yeah,
that's great.
sample. Right, so sample
Yep.
survey. And then
Assignment.
if you
Perfect,
go
I see
to,
that.
no wait, where else am I looking? If you go to,
No,
Sample survey, I see. Looks like we have friends coming in right now.
yeah.
All right, this is good though. I just getting access to everything is super helpful.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGinley. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, we do have people coming in. I'm not going to know everyone though either, so we're going to have a large class tonight, which is good. Do you mind putting your name on the screen? If you've just logged in, do you mind putting your name, if you know how to do that, so that we can see your name as well? Okay, I see. Oh, Sandy, thanks for being early. You're our only parent so far. How tired are people getting of Zoom?
Yeah, it's not something I was before would be boastful about how many hours I've spent, but now I'm starting to look at it like an accomplishment to keep myself encouraged and
Right, right. Mhm. Well, it's like we are going back in the fall, so. Yeah. Sandy, is your district going back in the fall? Do you know? I'm not sure. Sandy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I unmuted. I'm trying to coordinate my slideshow with, I want to see your presentation on 2 different screens.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, they haven't decided yet. We
Mm.
did focus groups this week. They're
Mhm.
still kind of surveying families to see, and the options are
Gotcha.
recorder, virtual again, or a hybrid.
Mhm.
So that's all still up for
Mhm.
discussion, and I still think it sounds like they're still waiting for some guidelines as well from the state.
Gotcha. Connie, join us. Hi, Connie. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay, Connie?
Hi,
Yeah, I
Connie.
can. I had myself on mute. Can you hear me? Because I had the air conditioner on.
Yes, yes, I can hear you fine. Great. I know I had to turn my air conditioning settings as well. So we have a couple minutes. Connie, has your district decided to go back in the fall? Have you heard anything yet?
So from my understanding, they are going to go back in the fall. That's what the expectation as it stands. ESI, of course, is going to be virtual.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we're trying to figure out if that's going to be a right fit for my guys.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I see, I'm sorry, is it Nithya? Am I
Nithya.
pronouncing?
Yes, Nithya.
Hi. Hi, thanks for joining. Yeah,
Sure.
we're gonna have a lot of people on tonight, so I'm trying to
Yes.
see as parents log in. Yeah. I have about 30 students, so.
Big class.
Big, well, it's 2 classes combined.
Okay.
We took advantage of your generosity to help us out here, so we combined the 2 family systems classes.
Sorry,
Let's see if I get audio. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Lisbeth, hi. Lisbeth just joined us. Okay, students, you should be, your mic, your video should be off. Students, please. Yes, thank you. So Lisbeth, yes, you're coming in loud and clear. Thank you.
I can't hear you, so I'm gonna jump out.
Okay.
And jump back in.
Okay, let's see here. Erica, if you could please mute your video. Erica Esposito, if you could mute your video, please. Thank you. Okay. I'm hearing, my husband always watches Jeopardy. I'm hearing that Jeopardy tune, so we should be ready in a couple minutes. Every night it's the Jeopardy. Okay. like we have most of our students. A couple more minutes. Okay, I see Liz has also joined us again.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, there we go. We have two Liz's on tonight. So,
Hi,
All
other
right.
Liz. Hi, everybody.
thank you for joining. We're going to begin in just a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of threw out my presentation and I'm looking at the questions and I'm going to try to answer those the best I can with my
No
time.
problem. Yeah, no problem. All right, let's see if I have 7:30 exactly. So, welcome. I have this bit of a welcome on the screen, but just we have about 30 students here. Dr. Ashley Miller and I are teaching, as you know, the Family Systems course this semester. And as I explained to you, parents early on, this was a course that, and our students know, that involved a field component. And over the years, many years, over 10 now, we've taught this course that we've had wonderful host mentor families that have allowed, you know, our students to come into the homes and really just share with them their knowledge and expertise and just, you know, being part of a family. And so we thank you for doing this. We know that during this time, this pandemic, parents, teachers, everyone is probably zoomed out, tired of being on the internet, tired of being online. So we really, really do appreciate your time. So students, just I have up here how we're going to proceed tonight. I have the parents just going in alphabetical order by their first name. They can certainly introduce themselves. I'm not going to take time away from them to do that. Some of the parents have, you know, I'll pull up some presentations. Other parents have chose, when it's their time, just to speak through the questions. Students had come up with great questions, many, many questions. Dr. Miller and I went through many questions. We tried to narrow it down, of course. So, you know, parents may address some of the questions, maybe not all of the questions. At about 9 minutes, parents, I'll just give you a warning and say, you know, you have about a minute left. If you don't use the whole time, oh my goodness, there's a bird on your shoulder. That is really
Yeah, it's Nugget. He's with me all the time, so it's all
wonderful. So we will do, you know, 10 minutes apiece, and then I'm asking students to please hold your questions. So maybe jot down some notes. Maybe you'll have a specific question for a specific parent. Maybe you'll just have a general question for all parents, but to hold them till the end, till each parent has the opportunity to say what they'd like to say to us. So with that, we'll just go ahead and proceed, and I will pull up Connie's presentation.
Shush. Thank you.
Other parents, if you'd like to mute your microphones while your peers are presenting, that would be fine. If that might help. And I'm going to mute mine as well. Actually, no, I will not mute mine because I'm going to be changing the screen. So you might need to talk to me throughout.
Okay, you can just go to the second slide.
Okay.
So I made a couple of notes as I went along, but I'm going to thank you for having me. Of course, my name is Connie Monk. My husband and I have two boys, Joshua and Joseph. As you see on the screen, I let the boys pick their favorite pictures. They really enjoy being dressed up, which is why they are wearing bow ties. So Joshua has a diagnosis of ADHD and ASD. And Joseph is diagnosed with pseudo-hypoparathyroidism and ASD. And pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, his parathyroid actually works, but it does not produce enough hormone, which affects his development, his cognitive development. It causes developmental delay. So in addition to those things, as you see, they both like soccer, they're scouts, they play games just like every other kid, and they are actually very social. So as you'll see as I proceed, that kind of, it's a good thing, but it also provided some stumbling blocks to us getting support for them. So next slide, please. So just kind of touching on our experience thus far, and you'll probably hear this from other parents, that it's been a long road. Both boys received early intervention. They both did extremely well. Joshua actually tested out of early intervention, so we thought, we were out of the woods there with him. But the transition was a bit difficult. Of course, there was behaviors, actually moving into actual full-on meltdowns that we discovered were actually kind of triggered by his teacher. So she was a new teacher. She didn't really have much background or understanding in supporting students with disabilities. So some of the things that she was doing actually did not work to help support Josh, and it certainly didn't help to support the relationship between her and Josh. So after many, many meetings, we really came to realize that there was a lot of inexperience, not just her part, but on the part of the school in supporting students with disabilities. So there were some inconsistencies in administration and not even supporting the teachers the way we would like to think that they would, in helping them to better, just to be better at learning, not just the standard quo, but for their own development. So because I am, and I always introduce myself as that parent, I did my own research, and in doing so, stumbled across a course that was C2P2. You might be familiar with hearing about it. It's from the Temple's Institute for Disabilities. And it really helped to educate me in navigating the system. I am a person that just in life and in my professional experience as being a technical salesperson, I believe in building bridges. So that helped me to salvage the relationship. So in getting evaluations and kind of getting the teachers on board, we did have to change teachers because she just was not open to making changes. That being said, my experience with Joseph was a little smoother, but at the same token, we had a gen ed teacher who kind of felt that his disability was an excuse for, either behavior or getting away with certain things, or getting out, so to speak, out of doing certain work. So I will say that by maybe mid-year, we were able to help educate her a bit, help her to understand that that was not the case, and how not just to support my son specifically, but I always say what I make happen for my children, I make happen for other kids, for the rest of the kids, because as we all know, kids are not standard. They don't come with directions. Every child is different. Can I have the next slide? So I didn't really go through the questions as well as I would have liked to, but some of the things that I think would be helpful that I would like teachers to know, or things that would have made my experience in learning how to support my students, my children, and the parents that I help support today, is that parents expect you to be willing, to work as a team, that collaborative effort. One of the things that really struck home for me for my son this year was his teacher said, what can we do? How can we make this happen? If I made suggestions, she wanted to know, what did it look like? My son came in, sorry. So again, that, yes, parents do, maybe they expect you to be the expert, but at the same token, don't be afraid to ask and say, hey, this is how this curriculum is going to be delivered. Maybe I have some ideas about how to deliver this slightly different for your child, how to modify this for your child. Don't be afraid to take that team approach. A lot of times I realized I was the only one in the room of 12 people, because my youngest son has a really significant team of people to support him, that silence sometimes is read as indifference, like you don't care. I personally happen to feel like educators are educators because they care, they want to make a difference. So don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I may not know the entirety of how to do this, but we can work together to do it. Ask for training from administration. Be willing to do your own research. I often find myself giving resources to the teachers that they find themselves, they thank me for it later, but at the time that I give it to them, it's that sort of wall. A big thing for the parents that I support, I always try to talk to them in terms of available supports for their children, not diagnosis or deficits. People are really afraid of that. But if we talked about, say, like for instance, my son Joseph, if he needs help with reading, this is the help he can get if we make these steps. I think that's a bit more palatable. Can I have the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
And no two children are the same, even if they're from the same household. There are, even with my two sons, even though they both have a diagnosis of ASD, they are vastly different in terms of personality, vastly different in terms of ability, in terms of learning. And just don't assume that they're going to be the same. Behavior is communication. And we hear it and it sounds cliche, but for my son Joseph, that was really the case. We found that his meltdowns in the classroom weren't due to him not wanting to participate. It was because he had not had OT in 6 weeks and he was being asked to write. So that was his avoidance method. And it really took our BSC to step in and evaluate what was going on. But of course, to the teacher, it was like, this kid is just disrupting my classroom. So, and I always say that behavior is communication. Right now, especially with everything that's going on in the world, being culturally sensitive, it's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. I would prefer somebody ask questions than rather assume that we are either not interested or not willing, or that Josh's first teacher, and this is going to sound really, really bad, she assumed that I was a single parent, married for 14 years. But that was her assumption when she would speak to me. And then when my husband came to school, it was like, oh my God, who is this man? So don't assume anything. Don't assume anything. We also had the experience of a teacher using criminal language in describing my son, my youngest son, saying things like, my 5-year-old assaulted her classroom aide. And that really is, I mean, when you think about assault, you think about intent. How can a 5-year-old intend to assault a person? It's just developmentally inappropriate. It's inappropriate to use for that sort of language for a child. And it definitely puts the parents on alert, you know. So, and my big overarching thing is presume confidence. Presume confidence. Don't assume that because the child has a certain diagnosis that they cannot, or they may not be willing, or if you see that they have ASD, oh, they're going to be stubborn and willful, because that may not be the case. I would say, you know, presume confidence, start from that place, and then modify as needed. So if we need to level things or make some changes, I think it'll be more, not just more acceptable to the student. I think that as an educator, I've seen educators have an easier time to do that. So I am done.
Okay, Connie, thank you. And actually, you were like almost right at 10 minutes. So wonderful. Thank you. We just stop share for a second. And goodness, where is my list? There. And the next would be Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, I believe that you just were going to respond to the questions, correct? No presentation.
Or try to. I mean, my narrative kind of goes along lines of what's in the questions, and
Yes.
I'm so glad I didn't send you a presentation, because it would have sounded an awful lot like the previous presentation. But anyway, so just a little introduction. My name's Elizabeth Lipp. I'm the parent of 2 boys on the autism spectrum. Their names are Nicholas, who's 20, and Gabriel, who's 16. And I like to say that between them, I have a normal kid, because they have 2 completely different sets of things going on with them. I'm just going to talk, and I'm pretty sure that in my talking, I'm going to hit all of these things. So with regard to experience, Nick was my test pilot. He started in our school district in their first full day kindergarten class, and also their first autism support class. So he is also my older son. So there was a lot I didn't know coming into it. It was really great that he was included with his typical peers. But throughout his school year, I would send emails to his general ed teacher and be directed to his special ed teacher. And I was like, you're co-teaching. They're all your kids. Not all teachers fall into that line. Even if they're co-teaching, they regard the co-teacher as the other kids' teachers. So that's something that I learned about very early on in the process. So Nicholas, my older one, was typically, he had all the typical guardrails of autism. So when we came here from Central Jersey in 2002, it was pretty much a slam dunk for services. He got his PT, he got his OT, he got his special ed, he got his, we had an education teacher. So we had a team, an interdisciplinary team working with him from the get-go, which was incredibly awesome. But I didn't realize that when my younger son came along, he's also autistic, but less obviously so. And if we didn't have Nicholas ahead of him, we wouldn't have known what to look for. He probably would have gotten a diagnosis at age 10 instead of age 3. He was given a provisional diagnosis 10 days before his 3rd birthday, just to make sure that he got services and kept services. And he got the bare minimum at that point. And when we were a year in with the intermediate unit, the preschool that he was at, he had a wonderful teacher called Miss Maggie, who said that, he was losing skills, and she was actually able to document that for me. Now, she wasn't an IU teacher. She was just a regular preschool teacher, and she took time off of her job to come with us to IEP meetings to make sure that Gabriel got the services that he needed. And to this day, she's like a hero to me, because here's somebody who's not making that much money, but who cared so much about my son that she was willing to sacrifice time to make sure that he got the services he needed. Not only that, she also kind of made it a point to be included in our IEP meetings. We had a physical therapist who was like, well, what can we add to the team? And I said, you are the most important part of the team, because the fact that he does not have core strength, the fact that he has clear physical needs that's interfering with his ability to learn, this is where you come in. So I made her feel like a valued member to the team. So she's like, okay. So she came to the preschool where Miss Maggie was at, and she introduced a whole lot of different things for all of the kids to be able to use. And the whole idea was not just to help my kid, but help other kids who might have issues. You know, they might not be identified or whatever. And it turned out that that PT had things to share that benefited everybody in the classroom. And that was an important lesson for me as a mom, to advocate for my kids, that it's not necessarily about doing what's the best for my kid, but doing what's best for all of the kids in the classroom. If I came back to, say, Nicholas, my older one, who at the same time was suffering, you know, because he was not having all of the support he needed in his second grade classroom. I laugh about this because the year I was fighting about Gabriel services, I was also fighting for services with Nick. That was the year of 8 IEP meetings, 2007 to 2008. Anyway, one of the things that I learned in that was the benefit of not just supporting my kid, but just making sure that there's another set of eyes and ears and hands in the classroom to support whoever needed it. It was great if it was there for my kid because it was written into his IEP, but that person was also there for the other kids who didn't necessarily have IEPs and who may have needed a little extra help. So that was another lesson that I brought home, you know, from that experience. And what else? Adversity. Okay, so my older kid, Nicholas, was the one pretty much designated not likely to succeed. I mean, at this point, they had pretty much said he's not going to hold a job. He's not going to school. This is at like age 13, going into middle school. I just want to note for the record, Nicholas is 20. He's a super senior in our school district. What we elected to do with him was, and this is something that didn't exist when he was in 9th grade, this is something that we developed in our own school district, was that he would go through 4 years of academics, and then he would have another 2 years to do vocational training. So he just finished his second year at as a business technology professional at Eastern Votech. Won 4 awards at award night. I was very proud of him. He will do another year within the school district just to keep any support that we can get for him. He's been going to Montco, Montgomery County Community College during this time. He's a little more than halfway through his associates. So by the time he gets his high school diploma, he will also collect his associates. And it's really up to him whether he wants to pursue a bachelor's. That would be my preference, but he would actually be qualified to work in an office situation. And I've been giving him work during this at home time. I pick up some freelance work from time to time. I've actually been subcontracting to him, and he's been doing the work, and I've been able to pay him. This isn't something that I would expect the school district to be able to do, but my whole life has been kind of thinking outside the box and, you know, making sure that my kids can do something for themselves when I'm gone. Let me think what else I can tell you. Yeah, that would qualify for life after high school. I'm still struggling with my younger son, Gabriel, who's 16. He had gone for his first job interview right before everything shut down at our local Giant. And it was interesting because the person who interviewed him, I kind of identified as having her own challenges. And this is something that everybody's going to run into. I'm kind of glad he's not working right now, but the goal is to get him employed in some way. I haven't figured out what his sweet spot is with Nick. You know, Mr. wasn't going to be employed. He's actually working 3 part-time jobs. He started as a volunteer at our local Y. I pushed that. He then got a job at our local Regal Theater. When he got the job at the local Regal Theater, the Y job turned into a full-time job, even though they had previously told us that that wasn't possible. So he was working Y and Regal, and he was actually their office intern for the past year at Eastern, where he was going to school. And the only reason that happened is because I made a comment that he was doing work for free for them. And they thought, oh, okay, mom's paying attention. So he ended up, that was a competitive employment situation. But the thing is, he had already known what was expected of him. So it was actually pretty easy for him to get into. So, you know, a lot of our thing has been sort of thinking outside the box, understanding that things are going to be difficult, understanding that people aren't necessarily going to get our kids. I mean, with my younger son, he had a horrible freshman year experience because his teacher called him lazy and didn't expect much of him. We made sure that he had a different autism support teacher this year, and it's made the world a difference. He made honor roll this year, and this is my kid who wasn't supposed to make honor roll. So it's really all about finding the people who support your kids. And yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure if I have anything else to add to that.
Thank you, Liz. We are at 10, so it's just
Sweet.
a little over. So perfect. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
No worries.
Okay. So let's go back to, I believe it's our second Liz who is next. And Liz, I believe you do have a little presentation here. Let me find it.
It's that one. Yeah.
This one, yeah. Okay. There we go.
Okay. So I threw this together after I got the list of questions.
Mhm.
And I may have missed a couple, but I think I included all of them. So my name is Liz Little, and it took me a long time to be comfortable with saying that my title is just simply mom. I was always very career-minded, and I had to stay home with the kids because of their needs. And so for me, it was very difficult to adjust to that. But then I saw it as a blessing of being able to have that luxury of staying home and working with them. I have 4 kids, and with those 4 kids, I have 3 IEPs and 1 IFSP. I've gone through the transition from IFSP to IEP at 3, and then at age 5. The age 5 was fun because 2 of my kids are twins, so I had to go through back-to-back IEPs with them and very different needs. That was interesting. But I've gone through, you know, the early transitions. I have not yet gone through the middle school transition that is coming up next year, and the high school transition. And I have learned along with my kids. If we can go to the next slide, please.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
these are,
One second. There we go.
There
There
we
we go.
so these are my kids, ages 11, ages 9 and 9, and Ben, who is 2.5. So their names are Joshua, Allie and Katie, and Benny. Josh happens to have autism and anxiety and a touch of ADHD, depending on who you ask. My Allie is my curly-haired one in blue. She has something called apraxia, childhood apraxia of speech. So that means that she does not always have the motor skills to say or pronounce the words. She might say the beginning part of the word, but not the end of the word. She might say the end of the word correctly. She sounds like she has a British accent. It is just simply her way of being able to speak. She was not verbal until she was 4, but she understood everything. And so we went through very different speech therapists until we found one that knew what apraxia was and knew what we were trying to accomplish. We fired many a therapist, and it took me 2 years before I had the nerve to fire them, because I didn't know you could ask for a different therapist in early intervention. And then I found another person that told me so-and-so did it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I've had 2 years of no progress. I'm going to do it. And so we went through a lot of therapists. My Katie girl has a learning disability. Oh, Allie also happens to have dyslexia. So we need a very specific reading program, a very specific reading instruction. And I fought very hard for that because it was what you call stealth dyslexia. It's not really noticeable. She compensates for it. And because of her language problems, dyslexia is even harder for her because she does not understand phonological issues. She doesn't know how to rhyme. To her, everything doesn't know how to rhyme. She doesn't know what you're talking about when you ask her to rhyme. So she can't learn in the way that other kids learn how to read. Happy to say that she is on to 4th grade at reading level, fully included. My Josh is going into 6th grade. It's the last year in his building before he goes to the junior high. He is fully included, reading at grade level and doing math at grade level. This is the kid that they told me that would never learn to be potty trained or to read or write. He's doing great. My Katie girl has anxiety. It's her primary diagnosis. She has something called dysgraphia, which is a learning disability. So her IEP is OHI for the dysgraphia. So when someone is writing an essay, they might not know how to start it, how to say it, how to form it, how to do written expression. She can talk to you about it. She can answer the questions. She just can't write it. So she needs very structured programs similar to dyslexia, but quite different. She also needs a lot of support with physically writing. My Ben is speech delayed, so his diagnosis developmental delay, but I am seeing signs of apraxia. He is too young yet to receive that diagnosis, so his working diagnosis at my insistence is apraxia. We are seeing motor planning issues. We are seeing different but kind of the same as what we saw with Allie. If I had not gone through this before, I would not know what it was. With my oldest, we knew something was off because we had a regression, a severe regression at age 18 months. He had hit all the milestones, but at 18 months, he stopped speaking in both languages. And it was skills that we knew he had. And so I was pregnant with the twins at the time. And so I had my hands full and I was very emotional. And so, as I'm sure all the moms on here know, we remember Diagnosis Day. I happened to have been at that time, I think about 6 months pregnant. I remember Diagnosis Day. It was the day that I became a special needs mom, a club you never want to join, but once you join, you got to get up and go. If we can hit the next slide. This is something that I prepare for all of my kids' new teams. At the beginning of the school year, all the specials, all the regular ed, even their special ed, they all get this. And they're welcome to being my kids' teacher. It is a short, what works, what doesn't work. I call it the IEP cheat sheet. I include a picture of them and their name because a lot of the times they become just that child with that diagnosis or that category and they cease being a person. And my kids are people and they are just typical kids that happen to have additional needs. My kids are always going to be included. And I'm always going to be that parent that's always going to be asking, how are things going? Because I have learned that if I'm not involved and if I don't make time to get involved, I may miss things and things may take longer. And so then suddenly if we need a new evaluation, we're halfway into the school year and we've lost that time. And for us, for moms, that loss of time is crucial because we're always thinking that we have to get them to be where they need to be as quickly as possible. So life is a little different for us. Next slide, please. Best support experience is when I have been treated with respect, when I have been treated as an equal member of the team. I may not have a special ed title, I may not have a BSc title, I may not have any of those titles, but I am mom and I know my kid best. and I know what they're capable of because I see it. And until they are able to advocate for themselves, it's on me to advocate for them. However, I will say that not all parents do. And so that when you're in your profession as teachers, you might have to advocate for that child. You might have a parent who is not involved, who doesn't know how to be involved, or simply just not understand the process. And you might have to convince the parent to do an evaluation. And oftentimes that's difficult because you're writing that line between not influencing and doing your job. So a lot of the times you're going to be the one that's going to carry the torch. And that is oftentimes more difficult because then you have, you don't have that home connection, and we can be your partners in this. We don't have to be enemies, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my kid the schooling that he needs so that when he graduates, he has a skill and an ability to just live a normal life in whatever, that may look like. The times that we had staff that cares and that wants to do their job. We've also had staff that just should not have been in the job or role that they were doing it simply because it was a paycheck and they were waiting for that pension. We have had the fire therapists for that. We have had the fire therapists not because of that, but just simply because they just were not on board with what we wanted. I have a very clear vision for my kids, and you're either on board or you're in it until we get the next person the following school year. But if I don't feel heard, and if I feel that my children are not heard, then that's not going to be a good experience for anyone. So right now I have very good rock star IEP teams. My special ed teacher and my regular teachers, they're amazing. They're just simply amazing. The related services, it's hit or miss. And that may be because of where my kids are at maturity-wise, or it may be because of just the nature of the difference between the educational model and the medical model. But for us, it's that dedication. If you truly value your work, it shows. And we really appreciate it because it makes our life easier. Next slide, please. Transitions kind of feel like I'm on a cliff and ready to fall. And each one gets worse. Each one is worse. It's higher. And the fall is harder. And so I'm preparing already for high school because I know I need to start now. I know I need to get him on waiver lists because he's probably going to need the autism waiver list. I know I need to contact OVR early because who knows when we're going to get on it. He's going to need tech skills. He's going to get vocational skills. I know he needs that. But not all parents will know this. Not all parents know that there needs to be a transition plan at age 14. I've got parents whose kids are graduating this year reaching out to me and saying, what do I do now? He doesn't have a job. I don't have anything lined up for him. It's harder for parents and that child to get the services they need unless you've got a school that's willing to say, by the way, we should be doing a transition plan. We should be prepping. So you might not have parents that are involved. And again, talk to them about transitions. Talk to them a year before. When you do that annual meeting or when you're doing the progress notes, talk to them about it. Hey, you're coming up on the preschool intervention. Birth to 3, I feel like you're being cuddled and hugged almost like you're carrying an infant. It's so nice. It's so warm. It's so fuzzy. It's like that blanket or that sweater. 3 to 5, man, that's tough because all of a sudden they're not that nice. And all of a sudden they want to drop services just because they're whatever, progress has been made. That transition from 5 to school, man, that was brutal because there I learned, wow, especially with my guinea pig kid, my oldest one, there's a real difference between medical and educational. And where am I going to get the gap? Where am I going to go for that? It was brutal. It was just a brutal transition. No one prepares you for that. I feel like you need what's that, a parachute? I think I'm going to need that for high school, and that's why I'm planning now. And so I'm talking to my elementary special ed teachers saying, what's going on in the junior high? What's going on in the high school? And what are my options? And I'm talking to other parents. I'm finding out different resources. You might need to connect the parents that you're handling or dealing with to those resources. You might have to tell them, hey, there's a conference going on and parents get a scholarship. The autism conference that happens at in Hershey or State Park. They're annual and they're free for parents if they apply for a scholarship. C2P2 or Temple Institute of Disabilities, they offer scholarships for those conferences if you're a parent. And so you might have to connect that parent. Patan has great resources for both teachers and for parents, and you might have to connect them to that resource. If you know a support group and you know it's for parents, give them a flyer, passive aggressive flyer in a backpack is greatly appreciated. I smile whenever I get one of those because that means that there's a lot of parents in that school that are going to get those flyers and may reach out. You know, parent to parent. A disclosure is that I work for them, but parent to parent is a free resource available in Pennsylvania. It is a phone call, it is an email, it is a connection to other special needs parents. And sometimes that is a lifeline for a lot of us because we feel alone and we feel disconnected and we feel overwhelmed. And so diagnosis day was rough. And there was a parent on the other line that said, I've been there and let's walk you through it. And that helps. You know, parents that walk the walk. Again, parent to parent of PA, it's free. You just give them a flyer. You can order rack cards that you can hand out on their website and they will ship it to you for free. If you can go to the next slide. So I have a very clear vision statement for my oldest. My vision statement in the early years was he will be fully included by the time we get to kindergarten. And he was. It took almost deconstructing that IEP and truly making it individual, but we made it happen. My vision statement for him from me currently is he will have the opportunity to either get his associates or a bachelor's because that's what I want for him. He is fully capable of it. I know he is. He is smart. That kid is smart. Whether he wants it or not is a different story, but I know he's capable of it. And so I want to get him all the supports that he needs now to get him there. He, this year, has started writing, well, we started last year. Last year it was just, this is what I want. And he told me, and he made his own vision statement that I wrote for him. This year, he was in 5th grade. I felt that he was old enough and mature enough to be offered the opportunity to attend his own IEP and to say his own vision statement. Now he has anxiety, so he didn't want to. So he told me, I will write it down. And I will, so he typed it all up and he made his own vision statement. And his vision statement was more of, these are the things I need. These are the things that go well for me. And the number one thing that was on his vision statement was that he wanted to be valued and respected, that he does not like being felt like he is dumb, that people sometimes talk down at him and that he is a person, and that all kids should be included, even though they have autism or whatever. They're just simply kids that are different. And so I think that was one of my proudest moments with him, that he was able to say that in writing and that he was able to stand up for himself. And then he constantly stands up for himself. He says, this is what I need. You need to give me a minute. He uses his words, oftentimes not appropriate. He might yell it, but he is heard. We're working on that.
Liz, we are over time. So
okay.
If you want to just maybe 1 or 2 more statements and then we'll move on and come back to you after everyone's done.
All right. So if we can go to the last slide,
okay.
And then I think that's good. It's the next one after that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. The one, it's the one after the 2 more.
Whoops.
I want to leave you with this. I want you to believe in yourselves because the fact that you chose this profession means that you are capable and that you care. And I trust that you guys will do good and be kind and do the best of your abilities. And it's okay if you have bad days or good days, but we value you. It's not always going to be easy dealing with all us parents because sometimes we get in our moods. But thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay. And parents, I will say too, if you, at the end, I'll ask if you want, we can certainly share your slides with the students. But next we're moving to Nithya.
Yes.
And there we are.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. The first statement I really want to make is inclusion and access, more than inclusion, access to physical, emotional, and social aspects of life is the most critical part of human growth and experience. And everybody needs that and needs to have that equally. So I have two sons. My oldest son is almost going to be 25 this year, and Vineet is going to be 21 this November. Vineet was born with Down syndrome. We lived in Cincinnati for really long. We just moved here to PA a couple of years ago. We moved from India. So disability for me was a whole new experience. Growing up in India, I had never seen anybody with disability out in public. So I had not heard about it. So this was a whole new experience for me. When Vineet was born, the Down Syndrome Association of Cincinnati reached out to us. It was even hesitant. I was even hesitant to reach out back to them in the beginning because back home, disability is stigmatized. I come from that background. So it took a lot of time to get to where I am. The picture here that I'm sharing, I have really put in a lot of hard work. I have done all the learning by myself. So 21 years ago, the parent support, obviously social media was not that effective, not even present at that time. Parent support, the way that I used to make connections, as soon as he was born, I used to just sign up for any workshops and any conferences and any seminars that is being put by the Down Syndrome Association or the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I would just show up because I just wanted to learn and I wanted to give him the best life possible. So I have put in a lot of hard work learning how to advocate. The most important thing that I really learned is connecting with other parents while at these conferences and at these workshops, because they would always give me tips and tricks on what to do when something didn't go very well. And I had that connection. I would come back and I would just exchange numbers, keep those numbers, and then something happened, I would reach out to them. So I think parent-to-parent connection, as other parents have shared, is the most important thing, because we know the experience, we know what goes through our journey and our experience, and we are the best support group for each other. The adversities, the limitations, while the school district that we lived in was very diverse, but they were not very inclusive in many things, almost in nothing actually. He was pretty much secluded. There were a lot of limitations. So, and at that time, I really did not know how to advocate. So, I would kind of keep asking them. I would always keep the communication open. I would be very persistent. I think when he was second grade or third grade, since I have my older one, I knew there was a wax museum project that was very popular, that was done by the language arts classroom. And I was looking forward for Vineet to participate in that, but I did not know that he was not included in language arts. So I did not know that he would not be participating in that. And it's a very, very, it is a very nice project, and it's a very easy project. I was wondering why they would not have him participate in that. All that is, the kids learn about a personality, historian or a personality, and they would dress up to that to be that person on the day off when they present, and the parents go around and they just are all act as wax of the personality, and all they do is touch the buttons. They have a button, and then they just kind of state facts about that historian or the personality that they chose. And I thought, like, this is such a simple thing that Vineet can do. But since he was not included in language arts, he was not part of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not happening. So I come back and I kind of reach out to other parents, and then I sent this email. So that is the first time I started including, the entire team. The one thing that for me that worked is I would start emailing the entire, not only the IEP team, but I would also include the administrative team, like the principal and the associate principal. I would email all of them. So I reached out to the principal and I said, like, this is such an easy thing for him to do, and I don't know why he's not included. So by being persistent, then we came up with a simple thing for him. It was Barack Obama's 2008, I think. So it was during his first year term, and Vineet was watching him on TV. We would like show him everything, and he would have, he would be coming with his kids, and I would kind of tell him like, oh, these are his two kids. So we said, it's a simple thing. He's seeing him on TV. Let's make him Barack Obama. And then we got him, just a shirt and a pant, and we made him say he cannot stand long for all the time. So we got him a chair and a table, and it was simple. He just stated 3 facts. I'm Barack Obama. I have 2 kids, and I'm I'm becoming the president. I'm the president of the country. That's all it was. It was just simple thing, thinking out of the box. He was there doing everything that the other kids did. And I think I can reflect back to, in all my efforts come to this day when Vineet is an adult and he is reaching everything in the community. So he needs to know how to interact to be living in the community. He needs to know how to learn to, live with peers, make those meaningful connections. Those are the things that are much, much more important, because we have a higher rate of adults with disabilities who are really isolated in this day and age, because they are not, included in classroom education, and they are always segregated. And, that kind of creates them 2 different lines. They kind of go a different way, and the mainstream kids are like, go a different way. So, our vision always for Vineet was to live in community, to have an integrated community life, to have a good employment, and to have friends. And, that's the most important thing for life. So all my fight was like, was for inclusion. And I truly believe in, it's gaining access. I mean, access to anything in life is very, very important to everybody. So that's the reason that, we were behind most of the advocacy work. I think I'm going to kind of stress on the transition aspect of it. Because I've gone through transition, and he is 21. He's going to be 21 this fall. I think higher expectations and presuming competence, I think these are 2 very important aspects. And having aspirations to lead a very good life is very critical. And, we want to give them, we keep talking about it all the time. And I have a son who is older than Vineet, and he's seen his brother go to college. And since he's seen his brother go to college, he would always jump and come back and tell us like, oh, I want to go to college, and I want to go to college. So, and we've kept that dream. We've kept those dreams alive, and we've worked towards it. So he's actually going to Syracuse, the Inclusive View program at Syracuse University this fall. So, and he these were his aspirations as well, because he's seen everybody do it. He's seen his brother do it. I think that is, again, transition starts at the age of 14. Like the other parents share, it's very important to give parents the resources and all the information that's available. And I think our biggest issue was, my biggest issue was not having much information about the post-secondary education part. Transition is multiple facets, but we used to always, in high school IEP meetings, we would always tell them that, oh, he's going to be going to college, and that was never kind of encouraged. They would never that they would talk always, the team always used to talk as if it was like, oh, one of those college programs. So it was kind of like stigmatized even by the administration. So I think that is something that needs to change in the IEP team or in the IEP meetings. It's very critical to know, and encourage and look at what the vision of the family is. Every year our vision statement used to be 2 pages. We used to sit and write our vision with Vineet. We used to have him give, share his dreams and aspirations. And we used to, the 3 of us, with my husband, we used to sit and we really, the writing a vision statement for us, which comes the first thing in the IEP, was very important to us. And we sat down and we wrote that he would be living independently, he would be going to college, he would be, getting a very good employment, fully integrated employment in whatever he wants to do. And I think having those aspirations and writing those vision statements are very critical. Most families don't know that and don't understand that. And like whatever the other parents shared, I think it's important to educate the parents on the importance of these vision statements and writing these aspirations, because I truly believe that every individual has the right to go to college or do whatever they want to do after high school. And there are so many options available, college options available for individuals with disabilities. So I think it's very important for the team to learn the resources that are available, and whatever those resources are, and it's important to share it with the families in the throughout the interactions. Like, doesn't need to be in the IEP meetings, but it can be a flyer that comes back home. So it's something that I always advocate for, because I am at the the other higher end of the journey now, and we really want him to he wants to live independently. He wants to live in an apartment. He wants to get married. He wants to go to college. He wants to have a very good job. He wants to do fashion. So we encouraged him to participate in a fashion show a couple of years ago. And we have and this is the other photo that that I wanted to share, that he exercises at a community gym. He just goes to the gym in the community. He has a personal trainer. The trainer has understood what the needs are, and she works around it, and he just goes by himself, and he does activities and uses the gym by himself. But these are critical aspects of living an independent life. And if we never give them an included, inclusion and included school curriculum right in the beginning, it's very difficult to suddenly have that appear later in the age. So this is why we have always advocated for inclusion. Vineet has participated in all of the after school activities. The school that we used to live, where we lived, their motto was get involved. And I took it very seriously. I mean, that's a motto for everybody. If everybody needs to be involved after school, and that needs to be the same for him. So we had advocated for him to participate in the cross country team when he was in 7th and 8th grade. And that was probably the first person. Vineet was probably the first person in our school district who participated. So there was a lot of hesitation with the teacher and the coach. But then, we sat down and we said, okay, let's just start it slowly. We always, our approach would be, whatever it is, whether it's an inclusion in a core curriculum or whether it is after school activity, I would always sit there in the IEP meeting and then say, let's try it. Because we had a lot of pushbacks. So my first thing is, let's try it. Let's give it 3 months. And if you still don't agree, I am very happy to sit with you and talk to you about what the next steps are.
Nita, I'm going to have to ask
Sure.
you to cut up maybe 1 or 2 more statements and cut
Sure.
off there.
Yeah. So that's always was our approach. It's like, let's try and then, come back in 3 months and see how things go. So I think I covered some of the questions from the earlier on. But again, we can go back to any other questions later.
Thank you. Okay, Sandy, you are our last but not least parent tonight. And we have Brianna here.
I think you're going to hear a recurring theme here. My name is Sandy Katz and I live in Audubon, and I'm here to share with you my daughter Brianna's story. She is 13 years old, and as of tomorrow, she's a rising 8th grader. She attends school at Methacton, and Brianna has 2 brothers, Dylan and Tyler, both older than her, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them a little later. Next slide. That's funny, mine is not advancing.
Can you see it on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to get to my notes so I don't forget.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's really weird. Okay, so the first, I guess, time that I learned about inclusion was from the great director and owner of her preschool. So this is a picture of Brianna at her preschool. And we learned very early, and it's been mentioned several times tonight, about having a vision for Brianna. So what I'm walking through tonight with you is our vision for her, what has been our vision, and then it's just been tweaked over the years. So like I said, our first experience with ChildWorks was where we learned the importance of having her in a typical preschool. And we learned that she learned so much more from modeling her peers. And of course, Brianna has Down syndrome as well. Next slide. As we prepared to enter kindergarten, our vision for Brianna was to have her included in her neighborhood school, which is Audubon Elementary. That's where her brothers attended. We knew the principal, we knew the staff, and that's where the neighborhood kids went, and we wanted her to attend there. We wanted all the same opportunities afforded to Brianna that our boys and the children in the neighborhood received at Audubon. We shared our vision for short and long-term goals with the principal and the director of special ed from the beginning. We did expect some resistance at that time many of the kids that that had special needs and needed certain services would go to certain schools within the district. So if it was speech, they went to a different school. It wasn't our neighborhood school. And fortunately, we did not receive any pushback. They agreed that Brianna should be in her home school. Next slide. And the pictures are just from her kindergarten and then up through 4th grade. And you see she's dabbing with her 4th grade team. We had a wonderful year in 4th grade. We wanted Brianna included in a regular classroom from the beginning with access to the general ed curriculum and with appropriate supports. We knew from all the research that inclusion afforded Brianna the best outcomes for success. One of the questions that was provided is, what is one thing your child's school service provider does or did best to support Brianna? Although every year was different depending on the teachers and the team, I would say that the elementary schools were probably the best for now. Now she's only in 8th grade. Brianna's supports included a one-on-one aide for behavior and academics, and we've been very fortunate. We've had a different aide every year. However, I just feel like just when I get used to one and feel like there's no one out there that could replace that one, we get another one that's just great with her as well. Of course, she's a visual learner, so she needs visuals and manipulatives, creative and engaging lessons, and then consistent strategies and scaffolding for her to be able to task analyze. I love to talk about the picture at the top where they're learning vocabulary words and they had to act the words out, and that's how the teacher taught them. And she would put up a V sign for vocab word, and my daughter would hear in the news, in the house, she would hear a word that they were using in school and she would go vocab. And that was from just being in her general ed class. Next slide. We wanted her to participate in all school activities, just like I think Nitya mentioned, that Audubon provided: chorus, band, orchestra, field day, fun day, father-daughter dance, sports, and more. We started with chorus. We did orchestra for a very little bit, and then I couldn't take that screech anymore. So we just decided it just wasn't for her. Next slide. We wanted an environment that balanced her social needs with her academic needs. One is not more important than the other. We hope she would be invited to classmates' birthday parties and play dates. We wanted her to develop genuine friendships and positive peer relationships like her brothers did that would support her through her school years and beyond. And again, in elementary school, that was great. It's dwindled some. She has a very, very small group of girls that will reach out to her and do things with her. The one, she loves to dance, and she has been doing dance for 4 years. So the one little girl from her class has been to 2 of her recitals and supports her that way. The birthday party invitations, I think they end in middle school anyway, so I think that's probably why, we're not receiving many of those. But that continues to be something that we work hard at. Next slide. We shared some of our long-term goals and our vision for Brianna as well. We want Brianna to graduate from Methacton. Of course, tonight was Methacton's graduation, and I was telling Vicki that I was watching that tonight before we started. And then her older brother, Dylan, which is the one, I think, on the left, he just graduated himself from Virginia Tech. And then her middle brother, Tyler, is the one on the right. He's a freshman at Pitt and wasn't very happy about having to come home mid-year and live with his parents again. And like her brothers, we expect her to go on to college. We are so excited about the opportunities for a college experience for students with an intellectual disability already, and expect those only to grow by 2025. We want her to dream big with no limits. Brianna already talks about being a teacher, a nurse, or an artist. We can picture her working in a doctor's office or in a classroom as a teaching assistant. She discovered TikToks this year and now wants to be TikTok famous like Charli D'Amelio. I had no idea who she was. Next slide. In a blink, we transitioned through the 5th, 6th grade building, completing some milestones like the outdoor ed program where she stayed overnight at an outdoor camp with her peers. We both survived. I say she survived being there and I survived having her there. She worked with her dad on a science fair project, just like all the other kids. She participated in Special Olympics at the upper elementary building. We started the Buddies program, and then she also participated in a group that they had that was called BLAST, Being Leaders and Serving Together. And as a member of BLAST, she actually led a tour of the rising 5th graders. It was a class of 4th graders, and she led the tour through the building for them. So I was really proud of her. I have to share that I think one of the questions was on adversity. So 5th and 6th grades were where we started to get pushback on our vision. Some teachers were finding it difficult to include her in terms of modifying the work for her. She reads really well. She's very good at decoding, but comprehension has always been an issue. She's not at grade level for reading, but like I said, she does read well. Math was always a struggle until 5th grade. She had an amazing 5th grade math teacher that I think was that spark for her, and she did an awesome job at scaffolding math for her, and she started to feel successful with math, and now she'll say math is her favorite subject when it was for a long time very difficult. They would say that they felt that she wasn't making sufficient progress, and then I, on the other hand, thought she was making great progress, like I talked about with math. It just started clicking for her in 5th grade, and I truly believe it was that teacher. We did end up in mediation. I think the question was, how did you resolve it? We ended up in mediation at the end of 5th grade, and the adversity continued through 6th grade. And I don't even think it was necessarily the IEP team. It was more the supervisor of special ed was suggesting that she belonged down the hall where she could make more progress. Down the hall was a very segregated class where they weren't seeing, the rich curriculum that you see in the general ed class. Kind of like what Nitya found, with Vineet, that the class was doing a project that he could very well have done. And so we didn't want to send her down the hall, and that's when we went to mediation. Last summer, as we prepared to transition to the middle school with a new principal, a new supervisor of special ed, and a renewed spirit of collaboration, things started to turn around for us. And things were getting great again. We were having a great year, enjoying the benefits of co-teaching for the first time, which was going really well. She had a co-taught English and reading, which are 2 separate classes in our district. So both of those were co-taught. We were having really good progress. And then COVID hit. And I think that was one of the questions too with the pandemic. We moved to the virtual but asynchronous learning. I was much more involved in her schoolwork, and like a typical 7th grader, she did not want me as her teacher at the start. By April, we had a good routine going with the help of her school aide. Till they got situated on what they were going to provide in April, they introduced that the PCAs or the one-on-ones could come in and help. So we set up a really consistent routine. She saw her aide on Zoom at 9 o'clock and at 1 o'clock, and she did science and social studies with her aide, and then she did math reading, and I'm missing a subject, math reading and English with me. So once that got going, that was really good. I would say the silver lining in this COVID is that I'm seeing what she knows and what she doesn't know. I'm seeing her progress. I can progress monitor now, and I can just like share with the school exactly where I think she needs help or where she's completely independent and doing really well. The biggest struggle has been the social part during this time. As are many children and adults, Brianna is missing her friends and the routine of school in a building. Maintaining friendships was already a struggle before the virus hit, and socially distancing has only made it more difficult. We continue to want her included in general ed classes with appropriate modifications as she moves through high school. We hope she continues to develop authentic supports and friendships. And I think there was one other question that said, if you could change the IEP, what would you change? And I don't know that I would necessarily change it, but I would want to, and again, this is one that everyone's been saying, I just would want to remind everyone, and I'm wearing my, can you see my shirt? My presumed competence would be the first reminder. And then my second reminder would be that special ed is not a service, is a service, not a placement. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, so much, God, and I'm sitting here just jotting down some things, and of course I have my own questions, but in fairness to all these students, I'm gonna open it up to them, but I do wanna say, you all offered so much. I'm so thankful, and incredible information. So I do hear themes of advocacy, hard work, perseverance, and a lot more. So let me say to students, I think probably the best way to do this at this point is, and I hope we don't get kicked off, but to maybe, if you choose, if you want to open your videos. Dr. Miller, do you have anything you want to add before we get started?
I'm Dr. Miller, by the way. Thank you so much to the parents who volunteered to do this. There were a few moments that I had to turn my camera off because I was getting a little emotional just hearing their stories. So I'm just so thankful for you to share your stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, it's time, we have some time left for questions. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have a hard time seeing hand raising in terms of, there's just so many of us. So I guess, Dr. Miller, I'm going to ask for your help, but also one way I can do this is if you just sort of flag me down if you have a question.
Yeah, or you can write it in the chat. Would that be easier, Dr. McGinley?
If you help me, it can.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a chat going. It looks like a few people had written in the chat, so you can always just post a question or even just a message.
Mm-hmm.
If your name on your Zoom account is maybe something like your initials, or you go by a different name, you could just introduce yourself before you ask your question.
Okay.
So you could say, in the chat, my name is.
So we have one question here. It's from Barbara Maroff to, I guess, every parent. So if you have a particular parent you want to ask a question of, maybe you can direct it to them, but if it's to everyone and you ask, how do you prioritize self-care for you and your family? So parents, how do you prioritize self-care for you and your family? So parents, I don't know how you want to, I haven't figured this out. Maybe if you want to.
It's a work in progress.
If you want to chat, or if you'd like to wave me down or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if someone else is, if one parent is responding, others can still respond in the chat if they wanted to share.
Yeah.
So for me, I sneak in 5-minute breaks. So if I feel myself kind of hitting that I'm going to start yelling or screaming and not what I want to be, I tell them I need a minute. And as long as they're all safe and I go to the bathroom and, I just take a moment. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Let's go. Or I volunteer a lot to go get the groceries, because even if I have to wear a mask, it's that drive, no kids in the car is amazing. Or I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and I someone's having a moment. I go in the kitchen. I use music a lot. I blast the radio and we dance it out. That's just our thing. The kids know I'm crazy, and so I dance it out.
Oh, that's not crazy. That's not crazy. I'm just saying.
I'm the out there parent. So I have a tent in my living room right now because that's what we needed to survive the week.
That works. You do what works. One of the things that we did in our house was we have the geocaching app, and one of the things I did was I downloaded the geocaching premium app, which is $30 for the year. It is simply the best $30 I ever spent. Because what we would do is when I was done my work day and they were done their school days, we'd go out hiking, and my older son likes to geocache, but he's very particular. He wants to be out in the woods, and that's like my jam. So we would be hiking 2 to 4 miles a day and doing geocaching, and that kind of helped us all level off and get in our groove and get in our space. So I highly recommend that to the other moms. Geocaching.com. Go download the app. It's cool stuff.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I think, for me, we would, the kids would do activities together, like with the other parents, and then we would all get that time to sit and chat. And that was a very good let out for me.
Okay, we have another question from Kaylee, and this is to all parents. She asks, since most of the parents have other children, how do your children get time alone with you and your spouse? And what are some activities the siblings like to do together? We just had our students do a sibling research project, and that was actually, I'm going to just jump in, Kaylee, if you don't mind, a question I had just in terms of sibling relationships. How do you, is it challenging to make time in terms of, the siblings separating out, doing things together, that kind of thing?
I'll take that one. Interestingly enough, we're all stuck together now. I think I mentioned my oldest is a graduate of Virginia Tech, and we had to do the whole online graduation ceremony for him. My middle one is a freshman at Pitt and had to come home. I think he's probably the one that's struggling the most because he had a taste of independence. But again, it's like a silver lining with this COVID. Like we've had to be together. So we're all finding our way, kind of existing together at home again. We're doing, in terms of the self-care, we're doing this, and I think it's because my husband knows that I'm like the last man in my care ladder. So we decided as a family to put together a calendar. On Sunday nights, we go through and we decide who's doing wash on what day, because I'm not doing their wash. They were able to do wash when they were in school, so they can come home and do it as well. Who's doing dinner, who's taking the trash out. We've had all that, and that's been like a huge help for me, and I'm grateful that my husband recognized. We've been taking family walks together, which we hadn't done prior to COVID. So we've been doing things like that. My son and my husband are bike riding. Again, I think everyone's taking up bike riding again, so they're out doing that. So those are some of the things. My daughter's TikToking, and my middle one is the one encouraging her, and they're constantly doing TikToks together. So it's funny how we're all finding fun and different ways to kind of spend time together.
Anyone else like to add to that? Okay, thank you, Sandy. There's a question from Stephen. He asked, what steps should an educator take to make you feel like you are an integral part of the team? So what steps should an educator take to make parents feel like they're an integral part of the team? And I think you actually did, I think all of you actually did speak to that in your presentations, but is there anything else that you think, maybe one other thing you'd like to add that educators can do to really make sure you are an active part of the team?
Well, I think just acknowledging that we are with our kids 24/7, and that in effect we are subject matter experts in our kids. I think that's a huge thing, because I've been at this now 18 years, and I acknowledge other moms have been at this longer. There have been times when I've been welcome to the table, and other times that the educators have waited until the last possible minute until there was a crisis. just assume that parents have something to say and give them the opportunity to speak. I mean, that's probably my single biggest piece of advice.
I think I would just add to that, meeting the parent before the IEP meeting, one-on-one, if it's a teacher, and then getting to understand, if it's the beginning of the year, getting to understand the family as such, getting to understand the child as such. I think that would be really helpful to build that bridge, rather than, if it's the new year and we're all just like congregating in that big conference room where 12 of us are there, and we're just saying, introducing each other at that time, like we just get a minute to talk. I think having time before the IEP meeting would be very helpful.
And I want to add to that too. One of the things that I did, my kids are further along in the process. One thing that I've done when my kids hit high school was to write a letter to all of their teachers that they were going to have, saying, this is Nick, meet Nick, and then all the stuff that he's got going on. And then I did the same for my younger son, and just invite the subject, social studies, science, whatever, to come at you with questions if there's anything coming into the school year that they had questions about, and just being open to that. I highly recommend that for other parents. But from the teacher's perspective, maybe reaching out to the parents to say, hey, is there anything that I need to know about your kid if you're at that level? So that's something to think about.
Anyone else want to add anything to that
Yeah,
question?
if
Bonnie?
I would say, as far as feeling included, is not just hearing the words. Don't come in with your laundry list of this is what this child has done. Listen to what the parent has said. I can say personally, I felt I felt heard when, if I had suggestions, or even if I had questions, that the teacher reached out to me and said, hey, I thought about what you said. I did some research. Here are some resources. Here are some things. One of the things I always ask is not just what you're doing at school, but what can I do at home to kind of incorporate what you're doing at school? So we're working together. I don't want to be using a different approach at home than what you're doing in school, and kind of counteracting what you're doing in school. So sort of like bridging that gap, like reaching almost into the home to say, hey, here are some things that we're working on. Here are some things that maybe you can use at home that, no, you don't have, maybe you don't have all of the manipulatives or what have you at home, but here are some ways, maybe if you have some marbles or pencils or erasers or anything that you can use, here is how you can use them to duplicate what we're doing. So it makes me feel like more part of the team, that we're working together, we're collaborating on ideas, and we're just really being heard.
Thank you. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Ippy asks, she says that she loved hearing all the success stories, but it seems like all of you understandably had an uphill battle and had to really learn how to advocate for your child. As your children are growing up and transitioning through grades and ultimately into the real world, how have you helped them learn to advocate for themselves?
Okay, can I grab this real quick, because I think this is like an awesome question. One of the things that we did with my older son, when he came into high school, a big motivator for him was that the seniors went on a Disney trip. So I said to him, you want to go on the Disney trip, you need to get a job and pay for that Disney trip on your own. So I live in a school district where, parents don't think twice about paying for these trips, but I felt this was a really good learning opportunity for my son. So he started as a volunteer at our local Y, and I reminded him, listen, if you want to go on that Disney trip, you're going to have to pay for it. So he got a job at Regal, and that turned into a job at the Y. And guess what? He wrote every check for that Disney trip himself. My special ed kid, that kid, did that. So my personal, response to that is find those opportunities where your kid wants something and say, okay, you want this, you're going to have to go after it. And, he did it. So, I mean, that's our big thing right here. Just using the real world as a motivator. What do you want? We'll figure out a way to go after it. And of course, providing the support to make that happen.
Sorry, are you?
Yes, you're fine, Nathan.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. It's a great question. Ultimately, we want our children to be, we want them to be, their own advocates and their own voice. High schools, we used to have, Vineet would come to the IEP meetings, but then in high school, he started participating. He would make a presentation about his future, and the team would help him, and it would start with that. The other thing that I always did was, high school is a very safe net, and I tell every parent. So I would have him, and all the time our kids are shadowed by somebody or the other, and they are never allowed to make mistakes, and I don't know why. So I would encourage the team to kind of give some independence, in high school. So I would say, figure out what the club that's meeting after school today, and how do you figure that out? Okay, go ask a teacher, and go figure out, if you don't know where that what room they're meeting in. I would so the calendar would be, you could access the calendar at home. So I would sit with Vineet and then look at the calendar and say, hey, this is the club which is meeting in 2:55. And then he would be very hesitant. And I would say, why don't you ask your teacher to find out where that room 255 was. The team would be very hesitant to let him go by himself after school. They would always advocate for an aide, and I would always advocate for no aides, because it's a very safe environment. High school is a very safe environment. There are many people still after school accessing so many things. I would say, let him go by himself, let him see where the room is, and he can text me or he can text you and tell me that, yeah, I am in this room and I am in this club. So these little steps, I would always encourage them to let him do these little things, so that he knows who to ask, and he knows, and it's okay if he made a mistake. He would be able to, he had a cell phone and he knew how to text me or text anybody. And again, it slowly started with those texts and asking, and now it's gone to him emailing. Okay, I don't email for him. Okay, who do I reach out to do what? Okay, if I have to reach out to somebody for asking for a volunteer experience, we both sit together, we both find out what the email is, we both sit down and write the email. So it gradually gets to that, but then the team has to be comfortable in letting them, try these little things, because, nobody is going to be there shadowing them after high school or after college, and they have to get to that independent level. So that's something that I always encouraged.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to that? Connie and then Sandy?
Okay, I would just say, even as far as helping my kids to advocate, I'm actually starting now. So my oldest, who is about to be a fifth grader in the coming year, I had him attend his own IEP meetings in second grade. He didn't stay for the entire meeting, but he came. He had a statement. I helped him write down his thoughts, had him either read it or say whatever he felt would be helpful to him. We kind of framed it as, what do you think you need? What would be helpful to you? What things are difficult for you? And let him begin that now. So although we're aware that transition starts at age 14, I can't wait until age 14 to get him started on speaking up, even on small things. The first day of school, he had some difficulty with the teacher, and part of it was things just moving a little too fast for him. So instead of just taking him home and hearing the complaints, we turned right around and marched him back to the teacher, and I said, okay, let's take it slow. Let's talk about what are your concerns, why you feel like you're not being heard, and let him begin to speak for himself, and not just, always, I can just go to mom and she's going to go to bat for me. So I do that with both of them, starting in second grade, even though there are some communication challenges, but there's always a way that they can communicate what their needs are, what their concerns are. And I find that as we got to the end of the year, even with this distance learning, I find him now taking time to write down on his whiteboard what his thoughts are, and then he'll unmute the mic to say what he needs to say. So he's starting to take steps to gather his own thoughts. So although my kids are not as old as some of the other parents here, I don't think you can start too soon.
Thank you. Sandy, I saw your hand waving. I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, it was similar with what Nithya and Connie both shared. And again, it's part of this whole virtual learning. My daughter has become a whiz at Zoom. Like, I was sitting here stressed prior to, because Zoom is a new platform, but because of being home, she's become really good at it. She initiates her own meetings. Her special ed teacher provided, at the start of all of this, a planning guide for their homework assignments. Like I said, it was all asynchronous, but on Monday morning, they dropped all her homework assignments. And then she and I would sit together and we'd plot out what she had to do for each subject and when the due dates were. And again, it was thanks to that planning guide that we could even keep it all straight. And then the other thing, unlike what Nithya shared, I was the one that was always reluctant. We've had a very good behavior team that's the one thing that has been consistent. We've had the same behavior team that the district has contracted with. We've had the same BCBA, or board certified behavior analyst, that has worked with us since Brianna was 2.5. She's almost like a second mother to her. Her one-on-one and PCA has changed every year, but the BCBA has stayed the same. And she also has a daughter that's Brianna's age. So she'll often say to me, are you ready to drop Brianna off at the movie theater so she can, with a couple friends? And I'm like, heck no, what are you talking about? Just all those, she's always challenging me. And I think I'm still not ready for that. And thank God for COVID that you can't go to the movie theater. But over the years, she has been the one that has pushed the independence part. So I've been really grateful for that.
Thank you. I am very, very conscious of our parents' time. They've had a long day with their children and teaching them at home and everything. Parents, if you don't mind, I do see one more question in the chat box, and you've been answering and responding to students, so thank you for that. But where did it go? This is from Olya. And she says, what kinds of things were done by the school team during distance learning that your child enjoyed? And what were some things that the team members do that were helpful for your family and functioning at home? So I guess the concern with, with the new world order here, and we're not sure what's going to happen in the fall, but, perhaps more distance education will become part of the norm. Was there anything in particular that your school team did that was supportive of you and your child that your child enjoyed or that was helpful? Yes, Liz.
So for us, the three older ones were the ones that have IEPs, so I'll start with them. With my oldest with autism, he has the most individual IEP. And for him, we had to basically write a new one for distance learning because the old one only included supports and services for in school. It didn't apply because I didn't have extra people at home. It was just me and it was him. He rose to the occasion and he told me what he needed. He didn't want to do the slides. He didn't want to do the material in the way that it was presented. Could he do something else? And so I had conversations with the team of saying, listen, he is very good at finding his own educational stuff online. He likes to learn, but he doesn't want to learn the same stuff because the reality is he knows all that. Like they were learning history, they were learning World War II. He had spent most of the school year looking at World War II videos to the point where he could basically tell me word for word some of the videos he'd seen. He is very well aware of the history. He wanted to do other stuff. And so we individualized it so that he could learn off the slides and do his own stuff and then present proof of that work so that they could give him credit for the term. And we did that for each of his subjects. So for math, for reading, for science, for reading, he didn't like the books that they were offering him. So I offered the teacher different books that I knew I could get him to read. And they were okay with that as long as he presented work. It was truly an individual program for him. And our team was great. They responded right back. The special ed director knew what we were trying to do. They know Josh. They know what he's capable of, and they had no problems individualizing it. For the girls, because they need very specific structured evidence-based systems for their learning disabilities, they gave us more access to those programs and in a way increased our services for that specific programs. And they made the adaptation. So instead of Katie having to write stuff down on the slides, they gave her different apps like Epic App, which is a reading app that they have to build their own avatar. She loved that because it was on her own time, but also it gave her the support where she could have it read to her. So that we really just individualized everything, and just the slides weren't working for us. They just don't work. You can't expect any child to sit there and read a slide. It's not interesting. But if you make videos and make it almost like an independent study, for some kids that works really well. I was very pleased and very happy with the support we got. Not all parents can do that. And I know some parents struggled with distance learning a lot. But our team was willing to listen. And I think that was very helpful.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to add to that? Connie. Mm-hmm.
I honestly was very surprised at how well the distance learning worked. For my older son who has a bit of social anxiety, being able to just that and having autism, being able to follow a schedule every day and just plug away at it, see people on the screen, not have to deal with the distractions of the classroom. Surprisingly, it worked well for him. I didn't expect that at all. My younger son, he has a one-on-one. So I had to be his one-on-one. So when they're in school, I'm in school. He needed, of course, help navigating the actual keyboard and getting to his particular assignments. But he was able to, I was pleasantly just surprised, although the challenges that he has, he's still on grade level for math and for reading. And so to see him it took him almost the entire time to kind of learn that navigation, but he absolutely could do the work. And being able to, for him to, again, he wanted to just zoom through. If I can get it done early, can I take a break? And that was his thing. Can I take a break? Everything was, can I take a break? And so being able to kind of tailor those breaks to him, as opposed to you can only follow the school day schedule, was a huge benefit to him. So it worked out a whole lot better than I thought it would. Of course, yes, it was still exhausting because I had to be the one-on-one. we still had our therapies, and I had to, but the OT and the PT are not physically here, so I have to demonstrate what they're doing. But it's still, I think, I can definitely say that they got a lot out of it. They still learned. They still stayed on an even keel.
Would anyone else like to add to that question? Well, you're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat box, and I certainly echo that, and I know everyone does. I think we could probably end up, usually I'm in bed by now, but I'm so wide awake and interested. We could just pick your brains, you know, all night, but we're not going to do that. But thank you so very much. Dr. Miller, do you have anything you'd like to add before we let our parents to log on tonight?
We're just so appreciative of this. I encourage all my students from my class just to take some time afterwards to kind of just sit, reflect, kind of let all of this sink in, and to hear your voices in, you know, the days and weeks and months to come as we embark on this another uncharted territory, and, you know, for what the fall looks like, just to remember your voices and your faces and your words of encouragement and your advice to us, because it's just such a rarity to be able to hear stories from parents that have been successful but are willing to be transparent and share with us their struggles and challenges. So I encourage everyone, you know, just to keep all of your voices in our heads as we go through these difficult times, and just know that there are so many parents that are willing to share and to give us resources and to be encouraging and to be supportive, and just to be so thankful of their parents, even if they feel like the parents that they're working with, you know, may not demonstrate that they care. All parents care. It's just how they show and speak that language is different for everybody. So thank you so much. I'm just so appreciative.
All right. Have a great evening. I think, you know, as we start to log off, Dr. Miller and I will stay on in case you have any individual questions you want to ask us about anything, students. But parents, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I'll be in touch.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Okay. Students, if you don't have anything for either Dr. Miller and I, you're welcome to have a good night. We'll be in touch.
Okay, go to
Bye,
bed.
Dr. McKinley.
Go to bed soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
Think, reflect, go to bed.
Okay. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just wondering what our journal is supposed to look like.
That was my question too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like what
Okay.
what do you want us to write? And like how much, and what questions should we, like what should be the topic?
Well, there's a journal rubric there in D2L. Number one, I never answer page numbers. So
Okay.
that's not something I do. You reflect on this evening's content. It has been recorded. We'll get the link up again as soon as possible. But you reflect, you know, it's a reflection journal. Feelings, observations, application, what your thoughts are.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be related to the questions that our group sent in. It can just be.
No.
Okay.
No. It's a reflection journal.
And for anyone who's asking themselves that question in my class, there's in the discussion board, there are the 5 prompts in the discussion board that tells you exactly, like prompt 1A, prompt 2A, that I want you to respond to in your reflection paper.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I just have a quick question for Dr. Miller. This is off of like this, but for like the parent guardian, is there a rubric on D2L
The parent guardian what? I'm sorry, I missed that. It was cut out.
The parent guardian survey?
Oh, so in the module list for all the assignments between now and next week that was posted, and I put a coming soon remark next to the survey, consent, and cover letter. You're talking about that research paper for the parents?
Yes, so I got like the consent and all of that, but like the actual like module 3 is showing up like unavailable on D2L. So I'm able to see like the rubrics for like
I see.
what the actual guardian, like I see that it's supposed to be like a cover letter, consent form, and survey, but what the actual survey, what you want it to consist of, like, isn't.
Yeah, so that is part of the coming soon remark. So I'll make sure you can access the module 3. But I was waiting on clarification on that. So now that I have some of those resources, I'll post those, and it won't say coming soon. It'll just be different links of like it'll be a packet like I did with the PowerPoint chapter module, you know, that big packet where it was like, click here for the rubric, click here. Yeah, so it'll likely to be something like that. But right now, I think on the module just says coming soon. Can you access the module?
No, so I mean, like I see like the quizzes and I see like all of our different like chapters.
Yeah, it was hidden. Okay.
But it just didn't get all of it in there.
Yeah, Barbara, thank you for letting me know. I just made it visible. I realized it wasn't. So I'm glad you said something. So thank you for letting me know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then also,
yes.
while I have you live.
Yes, I'm here.
So I'm just starting to like work ahead just a little bit. So like the book essay, like I know that it's like you want like the 3 sorry, real quick, like the key takeaways, 3 or more. Is there a certain page length that you want, or is it just however long it needs to be for us to point out the?
Can you, I'm sorry, for whatever reason your sound's cutting out. I feel like I'm hearing like the beginning and then at the end of a sentence it cuts out. I heard.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So,
I just don't know what assignment you're talking about because I think you asked about a page limit.
Yes, the book reading, like the individual like book that we were supposed to choose, and
I see.
I see that, you know, you want us to identify the 3 or more like key takeaways. Is there a page limit that you want, kind of like the research paper, or do you want us to just however long it takes to get the 3 takeaways on there?
However long it takes.
Okay.
Just like Dr. McGinley, like, I mean, there are times that I read, you know, papers that are 2.5 pages and they said more than they needed to, and they still didn't answer all the prompts. And there's people who can write it in a page and respond to everything. So that page limit to me is more counterproductive than it is productive, if that makes sense. So I try to just stick with.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I'm starting it here, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm hitting all the points right.
Good choice. Always good to start ahead.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course, Barbara. Thank you for your questions. I appreciate you staying after to ask them. So thank you.
Okay, I still see some of my students on as well. Do you have questions?
Yes, Dr. McGinley, really quick. I just confirm there was a due date for the journal that is tonight and that is tomorrow night. I assume it's
tomorrow night. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'll correct that. Yeah, thank
awesome.
you.
No worries.
I'll do that now. Yep. No, you can't. That's why I said it's a reflective journal. That's what I want you to do. I want you to reflect on tonight's presentation. So I'll send out an email now. Thank you.
Okay, so the reflection doesn't have to have any real direction. It's just kind of our thoughts.
I'm concerned with, you know, your takeaways. What did you think? What did you feel? What did it do for you? Yeah. So
thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do that right now. So I'm sort of looking away, but I'm listening. Any more questions then?
Oh, and you can type your question too if you have one. Same with Diane or Erica. I see y'all are still here, so you can always type it in.
Yeah. And Heather, you're still here. Did you have a question?
I love it. The friends I just caught out, like, just left. Like,
I think,
just type it.
Yeah. Okay. I think other than Heather, and I don't know if Heather just.
Yeah, Barbara's still here.
Yeah, sorry. I have one more question that popped up. We have like a little group chat of our group, and I just wanted to make sure I got everybody's
great.
questions.
Barbara, you don't have to apologize. Like, it's okay.
So for responding to like the chat activities,
yes.
Are we just commenting on the group's initial post, or are we starting a new thread that whatever they wanted us to do to show that we did it?
So unless they specified, I would say just go with the reply. I mean, they'll be able to see whether you reply or you start a new thread. Likely they'll get alerts if you hit reply versus starting a new thread. So remember in the beginning of the semester, we did like notifications, and one of the things was like discussion boards. So I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see when they reply faster than they'll be able to see a notification that you started a new thread. So I would say just reply.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we hit that beforehand. And then with it being assigned, are we just following the syllabus for that then, when to do it?
I mean, it's whatever. I think in the module it says due by before midnight of next Thursday. But I'm
just
actually going through. Yeah, I'm gonna go through in the next couple of days to see what activities y'all came up with, and make sure that people are aware of how much time it's gonna take them. I didn't see anyone so far. I checked before class. I didn't see any groups saying like do this before Sunday and then do this before Tuesday. Like I didn't see any group do that. So. It just follow the module which says before midnight of next Thursday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really
You're welcome. Of course. And let me know if anything else comes up, especially you have my cell number. So just text me, like even if it's the weekend, especially if you're in a group chat, like I'm sure people will appreciate you writing me.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you also, Dr. McGinley. I appreciate you facilitating this.
Yeah, she
Thank you.
facilitated this whole
Thanks,
thing.
Barbara.
I did none of it.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks,
You too.
Barbara.
Bye-bye. I think Diane's on for you yet,
Yeah,
Dr. Miller.
thank you.
So I'm gonna just log off, but if you need
Okay.
anything, if you need to, I don't know if you're gonna need to speak with me tomorrow, but probably what would be best for me is earlier morning if you do. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Now that I'm on your D2L, it's going to be a huge help. I was kind of panicking. So I'm like, oh my God, there's rubrics I never downloaded. There's some things that I just didn't, I was just going through and copying and pasting
Sure.
so I kind of panicked when I saw that I couldn't find your
Yeah.
names and then, yeah.
And
so
I still have to get the book essay rubric up. I have it on my desktop. I'm just tweaking it. So,
Okay.
yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
Vicki.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I'm not going to I can't end
It's
meetings.
okay.
all.
Diane wrote, so I think.
Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to share my thoughts. I don't have a question. I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, me
Oh,
too.
good,
Me
good.
too.
Yeah,
I can't
I
thank
did
you
too.
enough, Vicki. It's just so thankful.
And I didn't know any of those parents. I've just been I've
How
actually
do you
been
not know them? I thought y'all knew them.
No, I've been communicating with them since April, and just making sure that they felt comfortable. I did some Zooms with them, but no, I'm connected with some parents groups, and I just said, who can you recommend that would?
Wow.
Yeah, that resource that the one parent mentioned, that parent-to-parent PA, I wrote that down. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and Diane, the 3 resources, the Temple one, the Parent-to-Parent, and the Down Syndrome Association, I Googled those when they were talking, and I put those links on our D2L
Oh,
because
perfect.
I was like, I gotta catch these. I have to, I didn't want to miss them.
Yeah, that's amazing for my parents.
Yeah,
that's a
huge.
great thing.
Vicki,
Yeah.
I mean, you seriously, this was a game changer. I'm telling you, I was getting emotional. Just think, it was a lot. I'm just so thankful.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. I was
It was
really
awesome.
happy with it. So
Awesome.
All
well
right.
executed, well planned. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You
Thanks.
too,
Good
guys.
night.
Take
Good
care.
night.